Check two. We all good?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. Well, we always talk about it. It's been a theme this year. After a win or a loss, process that for the night and then move on the next day. First practice of the week. What's the good energy level today as we get set to prep for UMass?
Yeah, I think obviously, the kids now, it's game 12, so they've obviously had a lot of experience, a lot of lectures from me about like the process, what you have to do, put the last game behind you regardless, focus on this next opponent. Today on Tuesday obviously is the first introduction, so sometimes it's not as smooth and clean as you'd like for it to be, and UMass has got a little bit of an advantage on us in this week from the standpoint that they've had 2 weeks to get prepared for this game. We got 3 days, and but I think our kids did a good job. UMass, and we've talked about it a little bit, I mean, they've got a very, very good passing attack, and they can run the ball when they want to, but they can throw the ball. They've played some early in the season. They got off to a tough start, but they played some good teams. But they were in the fight completely against Tennessee. Recently, their most recent loss was against Mississippi State, and that was an unbelievable fight. I mean, Mississippi State had their hands full. They won 4 of their last 5 games, and probably one of the biggest differences is their defense. Early the first half of the season, I think they had only maybe created like 1 turnover or 1 interception. Now they've got 15, and so they've been doing a lot of good things in the secondary, putting pressure on the quarterback, and so we got to get ourselves prepared.
Everyone hopes that we all see T.O. one more time this season, but in the meantime, what has the spirits been throughout practice? I know that was a tough break for him. It's always tough to lose a player like him. He's on his way to all conference honors. What have his spirits been like?
Well, his spirits have been good. I mean, he's, obviously he's disappointed that he's not getting a chance to finish his senior year. He had a great start to the season. I mean, he was just playing so good, and I think the kids obviously, they miss him because he's a big part of this team and stuff. But he's been around emotionally. They've enjoyed having him on the sidelines. He shows up at all the meetings and stuff, and he's still totally invested emotionally, and and he's making progress on the rehab, and we'll see how quick he can get healthy.
When he gets set to lose an all-conference receiver like him, it's easy to say, who's the next T.O.? Well, that's an unfair comparison for anyone, but Bryce has been in this spot, and he's been playing really well.
Yeah, Bryce Singleton has done a good job, and I think his role obviously expanded, certainly when T.O. got hurt, and we had already previously lost our other starting wide receiver, Julian Williams, who's been out, and last week was his first limited appearance back with the team, and hopefully he's getting closer to being 100% where he can get back in the game, so maybe take a little bit of the pressure off of Bryce.
Along the defensive line, terrific games for Anthony Johnson and Furman this past weekend. What are your thoughts on the progression of them and really the D-line in general throughout the season?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, the growth and the development of those guys, has been outstanding. They started off, I mean, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of experience, new defense, new defensive scheme. They've worked extraordinarily hard. Kenny Holmes is a very, very good teacher and a good coach. I mean, this guy's a first-round draft choice and played in the NFL for several years, so he really is doing a good job of helping those kids grow. We're trying to build depth, and that's one of the things I think that helps guys like Furman and AJ is that when you get a chance to be able to put in guys like Kevin Oliver, Noah Curtis, some of those two freshmen, some of the other guys to come in and lighten the load, because you just can't ask your defensive lineman to play 65 to 85 snaps. It's impossible. So you better have 10 kids ready to go, and I think that's really helped all of them.
Last thing here for me, it's been a memorable season, a long and winding season between the trip to Birmingham and all those days there. I mean, what's one of the most memorable seasons for you? But with all that, does it seem like this season has flown by, or has it been a long and winding season? What has it been like?
Well, early it seemed more like the death march. I mean, it's like we're never going to play a home game. We're on the road. We're in Birmingham. The first probably 4 or 5 weeks of the season were extraordinarily slow because we'd spent almost a month in training camp with no games, and then we'd end up having to move the first home game out of the state. But the last 4 or 5 weeks, those have flown by, and it's like, oh my gosh, you mean this is the last game, the next last game. It was senior night, so that part has really flown by.
Coach, what did you expect from special teams at the beginning of the year, and what have you seen through the games?
In all honesty, to be honest, that may be the single most improved area of our football team. Leaving spring practice, I was very concerned. I was very concerned with not only the specialists themselves, place kicker, punter, snapper, not knowing exactly how they would perform under pressure, knowing how much of a big role that they play in the success of your team, and then one of the things obviously with a new program like this, you worry about depth, and depth gets depleted as these guys have gotten injured. Then that's when your special teams take a big hit, because now guys that were key role players on special teams, now they've got a starter. they're in the nickel and dime package. And now all of a sudden, and almost every single Saturday I look up on punt team or kickoff cover, and I look out there and there's like 6 freshmen, and 2 or 3 walk-on freshmen that are out there playing, and they've done excellent. A lot of it is a tribute to the specialists. I don't know that I've ever had a triplet set of guys that could be as effective as these guys have. Jose's been outstanding on extra points and field goals. Stone has flipped the field for us so many times. We get a 55, 57-yard punt, and what looked like they were going to get fairly decent field position, now all of a sudden they're backed up. And then, and you can't say enough about what Sean Young's been able to do. Not only is he the backup extra point field goal guy, the backup punter and stuff, but the number of touchbacks that he has, I mean, now for certain they're at least going to have 75 yards of field to have to cover, and if they try to bring it out of the end zone, I mean, we've probably got at least a dozen or more tackles inside the 20-yard line, and now they got 83 yards to go. So those 3 guys have been excellent.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
You bet.